I know you can see yourself.
I'm Michael. This is Patty, and we're honored to be here to talk about some Stillwater fly fishing. So I want to thank Liz and Lisa and the entire group and everybody online. I've never done Zoom before, so I got a little camera shot.
And I've only been in the little square, not in front of the camera.
So kind of what I'd like to do is start it out with some of the basic gear. That would be a float tube. There's 3 types of float tubes that we kind of want to go over. Give you a little idea. The people here are going to be able to see it a little more visually. I'll do my best on the screen here. The first type that you're going to notice is, we used to call it the tutu or the donut. It's
Yeah, right. They're not going to show anything on the screen. I can dim it. I'm sorry. No, that's good. Can you turn the screen just so we can see their stuff? That's good.
okay. So basically, this is just an inner tube that has a saddle or a harness on the inside, and you just kind of put it on, and your feet dangle down below you. So the advantage of this is on some real shallow ponds where your feet can have contact on the bottom, because basically you're just waiting, okay? But you can sit down and relax a little bit more. Great little option if you have real shallow ponds or the lakes that you like to fish. The most common, once you grab this here.
It works much
They're
better.
easier to handle than this. Or your U-boats or your float tubes. So these are extremely common. You can find them at just about any fly shop online dealer. Awesome to get around. So you set here, you got a nice backrest, the pontoons fill up, really comfortable. You do kind of want to be careful. You don't want to lean over too far. Yeah, so that's only a problem when you're netting your fish, though. You've probably experienced it already. So awesome little device right here. So you can find out more about these at the this Saturday's meeting, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to cover this entire thing. So that's basically that. They'll show you to inflate them, how proper inflation and stuff like that. They do want to expand in the heat though, so they'll show you how to take care of that so you don't hear a big kaboom one afternoon. Yeah. I'm going to pass it off to Patty now because she does an awesome, her and Connie, I believe, do an awesome safety.
Connie has a question already.
Oh.
Doesn't that one have an apron? So you don't.
Oh, yeah, it does.
You're falling
Yeah.
out of it too?
I would have covered him.
But it doesn't help. Yeah, it won't stop you. How do I know that? Right. You go over, everything kind of goes over.
If you
this way.
just lean over, it does give you some protection. If you were to lean over, like to get how we tangle, sometimes your line will get tangled on your fin. It's wise to never lean over to get that. Swim over to another fisherman and see if they can't get it off. Worst case scenario, go to the bank and get it off, because if you do flip, put your sides down, these things.
It's like this.
No, I know, but these things. If you do flip over, this is not going to protect you.
No.
It's going to slide right out of there from the weight of your body. So,
Something about momentum.
yeah. So you do want to be careful of that.
Or if you get one of those big fish on it, it takes out there and your drag set too hard and Okay, so I'm gonna pass it off to Patty now. I will get into this basket when we get into the fly lines, okay? Because it's got several purposes that are really kind of cool and important. So I'll pass it off to Patty to do the safety stuff.
So I'm just going to do basic safety. And like he said, we'll go detail in a workshop. So hopefully most of you will be there. But where's my little paper?
Under my bed.
Thank you. There's just basic equipment when you go float tubing. You obviously need your license with you at all times. It doesn't do any good if it's in your car and you're out on the water. There are occasions, you know, fishing games on the bank or even in a boat, which I haven't ever come across. Also, you always want a safety or a life jacket. Make sure you get one that is conducive to a float tube. We have had new members that have come and they'll have like a water skiing life jacket or something that has a back. In some cases that will work with your particular float tube. In others, it will not because you can't lean back. So you're like, because it's too bulky. So just be aware of whatever you do get, always know, like if I got this first, then make sure it works with my float tube. On that note, always make sure your pump works with your float tubes. Some will fit the nozzles, some will not. When you're out on one of our trips, we have so many different types of equipment. There's almost always somebody that can get you through that event. But when you're buying, like if you were to buy a tube, this has many attachments. So this one will work pretty much on all of them.
There's little air valves on there that you want to make sure that the adapter fits those, so.
You know, on your
But
life,
before you go too far, back to the life jacket.
yes.
There's been a couple issues that have been brought to our attention to bring to this workshop. And that would be, these are inflatable life jackets, okay? So they go on real easy. They protect real nice. But there's a couple things I kind of want to go over real quick, so I will. Not that I'm concerned with that. You can get these types of life preservers that are manual, where there is a little handle. Watch out, last time I did this, it went off. Where you pull, and there's a CO2 cartridge inside, and it inflates everything, okay? This is a manual along with a water sensitive. So if this gets immersed in the water, it's going to go off. So an advantage to that, if you were to hit your head and be unconscious, this is going to go off, okay?
What if it rains?
That could be a problem. Especially if wherever you put it is going to hold water, if it gets submerged in the water. The general rain is not going to set it off, okay?
Normally it says 3 seconds immersed.
Immersed, yeah.
Okay.
This
But-
last weekend, Shirley had mistakenly put hers in the back of her float tube, not thinking she was on. And it got wet, it blew up.
Right,
So her tip was have an extra cartridge,
yes.
an extra CO2 cartridge. So you can pack it back in there, you can screw another one on.
Am I allowed to
No,
give
no.
Shirley a bad time? Because that's not the first time.
Is Shirley on there? Glad to meet her. So,
She's trying to unmute herself.
so during your fishing trip, you know, make sure that this is out, okay? I see it in quite a bit, so if something happens,
Okay, I'm gonna correct him. I float tube more than he does.
now you gotta search for that thing, so.
I am like barely hitting it.
You do want it out to where you can reach it. However, I'm short
It can
enough
get
in my
snagged.
tube, and there is so many things to snag on, I have to tuck it in.
Yeah, I accidentally had to catch on something and explode, so.
Yeah, this
I tucked mine underneath.
gets your attention, doesn't it?
It does, so it's shocking.
How much
So-
does it expand? It looks so small and like it wouldn't hold up a normal size.
That's Shirley.
Hold up, Patty.
I'm so tempted to do it, but.
It's big.
Oh, it gets big, and it'll keep your head out of the water too, yeah. So if
I
you
thought
fall,
Shirley's the first.
if you fall forward, it goes off, it's gonna invert you back up. That's
Okay.
why they're rated for float tubes.
Okay.
There's another pocket on most of them, because if you're out there all by yourself, which you shouldn't be, you should always be going to somebody. But if you are, there is a manual inflation piece too. It'll go on the end of this and you can blow it up if you're out there for a long time. So a lot of people don't know that that's in their vest, okay? So now when you're done with it, what I'd recommend is when you're done fishing for the day is, make sure that goes back in there. So this doesn't get snagged or hooked up, just tuck it up back underneath there and then you can take it off and put it away. So, yeah, I didn't need to, I just added.
Well, here, you can take your cartridge.
Okay, did we go over the cartridge?
No, but we're on safety right now. You can tell them how to replace it later. Yes.
All right, so I got a new one last year, not knowing that I should check the date on the cartridge. The 3 years date, and mine only has 1 year left.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm gonna take it back to the store and ask for a new cartridge.
You can, that's kind of like the expiration date on pork and beans. It can be 3 years longer and they're still gonna be fine.
But it's got that blue.
It has a date on it, yeah.
There's a date on the yellow bottom, an expiration date on the yellow bottom piece.
Right, on this, yeah, this piece here.
And people don't think they know they have to replace
And I have to admit, I did not know until
Yeah.
Connie brought it to our attention.
I don't think you do, so I gotta be careful, don't take what I say as, to the bank. But when you replace your cartridges, I didn't go over this. This is your cartridge setup right here. There's instructions on how to do that, how to reset the little spring in here. Everybody, I'll pass this around, but you can see that there's a green right here, okay? So let's say you have an old cartridge that's 2-3 years out of date. You've replaced it and yeah, it looks green. It should be fine. If it's not, if it's red, if it doesn't recalibrate this, then yeah, you probably need to go get a different cartridge. I would say that it's okay, because I got one that's like 5 years out of date and I'd still try it.
Well, and mine's a little different, and I've obviously had it longer because I didn't know there was a date on the cartridges either. Mine looks different, but I look at this green and it has moved just a hair. So I know that it must be working because it will turn red when it doesn't have whatever.
When it's not
the
charged,
gas.
yeah, when it's not charged, yeah.
But I did find out, because I did the same thing as Shirley, and I got mine wet, it went off.
And did that turn red?
I can't remember, but I was replacing it, that's when I called you guys, because I tried to put a new cartridge in, and it went off again.
Oh,
And then I realized that bobbin has to, if it goes off, you have to replace the bobbin. Because it has this like white stuff inside of it, and I looked at it, and half of the white stuff was gone. And then I replaced the bobbin, and then I could put in the cartridge again.
Right.
So surely, she needs to replace that bobbin.
And they're different too. So this one has a different configuration on it. So this goes off, this flips over, you replace it, and it all goes back. What I'd recommend is just go over that, when you purchase your flotation or your life jacket.
YouTube has videos on it too.
Yeah, oh, YouTube. My boy says that all the time. I'll Google it.
They'll show you.
But it's just like anything else. That know your gear, okay? Know your limitations, know maintenance, keep an eye on it, check it quite often, yeah. Possibly have an extra spare.
Inflates your.
Once.
Once.
Once, yeah.
How much of the cartridge to replace?
Not sure, 10, 12 bucks probably. It might be.
Well, ask
No, they
Brenda,
may be-
she just replaced.
Yeah, they may
How
be,
much to replace the cartridge?
They cost, I got them on Amazon the cheapest, I wanna say it was $27.
Yeah.
$29.
I haven't bought one for a long time.
It's not, they're not cheap, but it was cheaper than at Sportsman.
And they're cheaper than a new life jacket. But Chris, you kind of look startled.
Well, I
Hopefully
just,
you'll
these
miss-
are more normal life jackets. I'm thinking, I'm a scuba diver as well. And this is getting like almost like a BCD where you're able to inflate yourself. And with an ultimate source.
Yeah, believe me,
I don't know.
these are a lot more comfortable than a
So
life
they-
jacket.
I mean,
Well, but even those orange life jackets
Let's stand
would
behind.
work.
they could, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
You
the
know,
options
it's
are endless,
strictly a
I
matter
guess.
of comfort.
It's interesting.
Because I have one that's a zip up.
Yeah.
It's just
Like
like every day.
That's right.
Sharon has a question.
It's not just a question.
Hold on a second.
We got too many people talking, sorry.
And we're kind of limited on time too.
We had something happen out of Bruno on Saturday that a lot of people are unaware of because they were elsewhere. And I don't know how many people are aware of the fact that we have a float tube that split at the far end of the pond. And the guy was sitting with me at dinner or at whatever, and we were talking about it. And he was saying that he kept trying to inflate his, but he's a portly guy, it didn't fit him well. And he was panicking and he was having trouble and he was never able to get it inflated. Fortunately, a couple kayakers came over and tried to help tow him back. They were unable to, but a regular hard bottom boat was on pond at the time and they were able to tow him back. He never got that inflated, and I think it was a combination from what he told me personally, was that his life vest didn't fit him properly. He hadn't adjusted it so it was snug where it needed to be. And he was just panicking and unable to get the thing to pull. So if you go in the water and you need it to work, calm down.
Don't panic. That's the worst thing.
Well,
you can
that, and be sure when you buy them, this one can be on the rack right next to another one. This one can be manual and automatic, and this one can only be manual. And that might have been his case, because if this got wet, it should have gone off by himself. He shouldn't have had to pull it.
I don't know the
Yes, but I'm
configuration
just
he
saying
had,
that-
but we discussed it at length. As a matter of fact, it was Elmore's brother.
Yes,
And,
So- There's another thing that I do too, before I even go out, every morning, I check to make sure that's green. Okay, if it's not green, I'm gonna replace the cartridge. So again, it's just awareness and that, so. But they're gonna cover that probably a lot more on Saturday. So what's next?
okay, he already went through, we started out the things you'll need to be safe on the water. You need your float tube, you need your fishing license, you need to have it properly inflated, you need to know the weather. For example, Connie and I got there early to Bruno, hotter than you can imagine. It was like 85 that first night. We filled our tubes up accordingly, put them in the water. The water was so cold, it not deflated your tube, but it will relax. And it was enough that I went back and got my pump and added air. So you have to really pay attention to that before you get on the water. From experience, I will tell you, on a windy day or a breezy day, you're better off having it too full than not full enough, because it is much easier to fin against the wind with a full tube.
We got one of these little K-pump, it's a mini. So we carry this on our float tube. So if we have to, we can, fill it up or whatever. Or because throughout the day, you may want to let pressure out of your tube. It's not a big thing to worry about when you're on the water, but when you're up having lunch, you might want to be aware of it. So.
And never play with your,
Oh, yeah.
your, what do you call these?
Well,
Your valves while you're on the water. Because there are days you're out there and you're out there all day long and it gets hot. Go to the bank and release some air. Do not do it on the water, because these are so easy to get the big one versus the little one. And if you get the big one, it goes down fast.
this could be skin tight and stuff, and that's okay. Just push it. If you can dimple it a little bit, you're fine. But if you go to let air out, like you're saying, this is the one that.
and the top one doesn't want to unscrew very easily.
Yeah, and when you're on your boat, you're like,
And when it's full, it goes fast.
yeah. Okay, and then you need fins, and there are old-fashioned fins that Michael prefers. Or you have the forest fins that Connie recommends. They make you go faster, but I actually go the same speed no matter which ones. The thing about these is you wear a boot in them, and it does get heavy. Whereas these come in two styles. They've got bigger ones that you can wear a boot in it. These you don't, you just wear your neoprene booties off your waders. You need to make sure if you do that, that you have a pair of slip-on rubber shoes or something to put on when you get back to shore so that you don't damage your waders.
And a safety strap.
Yes. Where,
Mine don't.
I was gonna say, where are your, no,
I carry.
I have safety straps, and these do sometimes slide down. Obviously, these are much more expensive than these, and they're harder to find. If you lose this, it's a big deal. So you definitely want to make sure you have a safety strap on your fins. So if it does somehow come off your foot, you obviously haven't lost it. The other thing
Because they
is,
sink, they don't float.
the other thing is it's very difficult to fin with one. It really is hard. It is possible with these, but it is hard because I've had cramps before when you have to fin with one.
Can you find those safety straps separately?
Yes, I buy them at Sportsman's, but sometimes they'll tell me they're out and they're really not. You go to the regular fishing department where the life jackets and things are, and they have a bunch of different kinds of accessories. So you do kind of have to look, and I think they're like $9.99 or something.
You're handy, you can make your own out of Velcro and piece of cord too.
Shoelaces
How much time do we have?
Yes, shoelaces work. Well, if you quit interrupting, we'd be all right.
We're not at home now.
Yeah, and God, yes. I would have been fast. The one thing which is a law in Idaho is you must have a whistle on you at all times. Michael carries his in his pouch on his vessel, but you do need a whistle. Most of the ladies wear them on their lanyards. That's what mine is. I have a little whistle on mine. Through my other fishing group, I have discovered that they actually make underwater whistles. Divers or something, they have underwater whistles, and they're not very big, but I actually thought of looking into it, and I didn't.
You can
Yeah.
blow the whistle underwater and the people above the water will hear it?
I don't know about above, but like if you're with another
So somebody
diver, oh,
below
that's
the
right,
water?
I guess it wouldn't do any good. It might be good for divers, because,
Here's the underwater.
yeah.
It does.
So about your whistle.
We're all up top, you're not gonna hear
The reason for a whistle, it's loud, it's noisy, everybody can hear it for a long ways. The universal call for an emergency is 3 blasts, okay? So if you hear 3 blasts, somebody's in trouble. So kind of look around. If it's 4 or 5, well, they're just trying to get your attention. So, but, or they've panicked, okay? But the universal emergency call is 3 blasts on your whistle, or 3 toots on a horn, or 3 gunshots. So that's just an emergency thing.
Well, and my suggestion is never use your whistle unless it's an emergency. And that way, especially in our group, you know, I think we haven't really had any incidents. So I think we might panic and just blow it and then try and do what we're doing. We're not going to be thinking 3 things. So I would just advise that your emergency whistle only used for emergencies. My voice carries. If I need somebody's attention, I'll yell at them.
We are gonna give them away at the workshop for those people that are participating. So there will be some for everybody.
Then sunblock and sunglasses, wide brim hats are very important. You just don't realize the reflection on that water. I have sun gloves. I know some of the other ladies do. These have an opening so you don't have to rip them off every time you catch fish. I have to admit, I do take pictures of my fish. After a while, I just release them straight from the net, I never touch them. So, you know, you just have to protect yourself. There was one year at Sageman, I forgot it back at camp. I was putting chapstick on my hands because they were burning, and they were on fire. So you just wanna know your surroundings, know your weather, and be prepared for all instances. Always take water with you, snacks, you know, you never know. You might get stuck out somewhere, or you might just have too much fun. And so you need to make sure you're prepared for all situations. Any questions? I guess I didn't show you the lanyard. You need flies, and you need your lanyard, or just put it in your pocket. You need your nippers and all of that, just to change your flies. And, you know, sometimes a hook will get stuck farther down in the mouth or throat, that you need to gently release your hook to get in there. Your butt. I'm sorry, oh, I thought you were saying throat. Okay, I didn't bring it up, sorry. Buffs are a good thing. If you don't, I wear a baseball hat a lot, but I have wide brim hats. I end up leaving them back at camp when you need them, and then I have them when you don't need them. But buffs are very versatile. They keep you warm, they keep the bugs off. The one day it was really hot and I didn't have my hat, you can bring it up all the way up and over your nose, because you should have your sunglasses on. Your sunglasses protect your eyes from the sun. They also possible, you know, bad cast like I do. Sometimes I never hit my eye, but it is a potential of, you know, injuries. So you should always have glasses on when you're fly fishing. So,
Polarized.
yes. Anything else?
One thing I noticed, Pat, is that people on their need a belt with their waders, keep the
Oh,
water from moving
that's
through.
true.
And I'm gonna say, everybody's waders all have stretchy belts.
That's
So
true.
I always buy a separate belt when I.
Well, and I wear cheaper waders on the float tube, because for some reason, I just don't want to use my expensive ones rubbing against here. I just think I'm gonna wear those knees out or something, so I get cheaper ones. And I had an old pair, they were brand new, I bought them, and they were under the, I had to replace mine. They're the old fashioned, the Cabela waders have a cinch right here, so you don't even need a belt. And I really like that. But yes, you wanna make sure that the belt is tight enough to at least stop the water from gushing into your legs.
It's not the water that's gonna be a problem. Your waders in a float tube, you're gonna want chest waders. I tried the hip waders, they don't work. Yeah, you get wet. But your chest waders, it's not the fact that the water will fill your waders up, you're gonna get wet. But without a belt, they're bulky and baggy up here. So you fall in, well, all that air is gonna collapse here around your chest and stuff. But all the air now is gonna go down to your feet. So now you end up with a life preserver at the wrong end of your body. You won't be able to get your feet down, and they'll be like this. Yeah. And underwater whistle probably won't work.
Something somebody
So
told me.
always a wader belt, okay? If somebody doesn't have one, then make sure that they do.
Something somebody told me is keep a pocket knife, and if you do fall in the water, slit your waders with that pocket knife, because then that'll let a lot of the water out, so that could help.
Well, again, too, when you're in the water, those waders are gonna get really tight on your leg. So you rip a knife up there, you might have more problems than you want to have.
Someone told me that, so
So just don't panic though, but to avoid any of that situation, always wear a wader belt. I mean, I guided for 25 years and I carried 3 or 4 of them in my day pack or my guide backpack. If a client doesn't have a wader belt, they wear a wader belt. So you can try it sometimes. Take your waders, collapse the front up here and just work it down like that, and the whole legs are gonna fill up with air. So that's the issue there. So good question. Nobody's asleep yet.
Well, I don't know.
Applies, Patti uses.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that now, so.
No, but I think we need to speed up. I think we're going,
Yeah, but we got him captive, right?
no, I don't think so. I think we're losing.
He's got the exit, so.
So now,
So.
why?
Okay, so I've been trying to get. Okay, can everybody see that? All right. So when, on the trips that I've been at, and there's a whole lot of information that a lot of people don't know, especially some of the new people getting out. So the first thing I'd like to go over is the equipment, your rod, your reel, and fly lines, okay? The rod is, the rod's very simple. Well, it's not quite that simple, but you're gonna notice a whole bunch of different lengths on fly rods, stuff like that, 7 all the way through 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9 foot. What I'd recommend for your fly fishing on a float tube would be a 9-foot fly rod. This is a basic start. 4-piece, doesn't matter there. The stiffness of the rod, I would get, make sure that you kind of get a medium fast to fast action rod. And what I mean by that is, it's basically the stiffness of the rod. Okay? If you get a real noodly or flimsy rod, it's going to be a little difficult to use one of the fly lines that you'll fish with. So a medium fast to fast action rod at a 9-foot length would be a great start. The reel, if you don't have gear already in that and you're purchasing a combo kit, one question that I would ask for sure is on the reel, can I get extra spools for my reel? Okay. Reason for that is this line right here, they're colored. This one happens to be white. This is a floating fly line. So you can use that on your lakes, ponds, reservoirs too, especially when you see fish gulping or eating on the surface. However, most of the time, those fish are going to be down deep in the water, okay, or deeper under the surface. And there, you're going to want to have an option of a sink line, okay? In other words, it's a full sink too. So you can have extra spools. So our little setup is here. We have a 3-inch per second line that sinks at a steady rate. Have a 3.5 or a 4 to 5 inch per second sink rate. And this one is a 6-inch per second, 6 to 7 inch per second rate, okay? The reason you want to make sure that your reel can have extra spools is because I can just snap this one right out and put this line right on and I'm good to go, okay? So if you're, most combo kits, you're not going to be able to buy extra spools for your reel. So that's one question that I'd ask if you buy a combo kit, okay? Drag, stuff like that, not really that important. So now I'm ready to go with the floating line, okay? Leaders, that's a little tough. Actually, it's not simple. I'll make it simple. If people don't know what leaders are, they come like this. So this is a 9-foot 5X. In other words, the 5X means that it breaks at 5 pounds. Okay? They make them 0 through 7X. You can find those. I'll pass that real quick. So when I'm fishing, that's a 9-foot leader. So I'm fishing my floating fly line on the surface with dry flies or a leader 9-foot long, a little deeper into below the surface, that's great. So there's a type of, well, with floating line. If I'm going to be fishing a full sink fly line, I don't want a 9-foot leader, okay? I want the shortest possible leader that I can get away with. 4 foot is the shortest that I've ever found.
Like when you say full sink, is that the fastest sink?
Yep. Let me draw out a little diagram here. I hope you people at home can.
And would you use a faster sink if the water's deeper, or what would you be best way?
Yeah, so let's say this is our pond or a reservoir that we're fishing, and we have fish down here. Of course, we don't know how deep they are just yet. We're over here on our float tube. If I am going to fish a floating fly line, my fly line, of course, is going to float on the surface, and so is my fly if I have a dry fly line. If I have a nymph on, I'm only going to get down as deep as my leader is long. Okay. What if the fish are, that's say 6 feet or 4 feet? What if the fish are at 10 feet? Now, these aren't going to be accurate numbers, but I'm going to speed through it. If I have a 3" per second sink tip, and one of those yellow boxes there that says type 3. I'll pass this around. This is a type 6. When you're purchasing your lines, yeah. This is a full sink fly line. In other words, the entire line sinks at a specific rate. That information is going to be found right here on the lower section of your box. Okay. So that's a weight forward, 6 weight, sink rate of 6 inches per second is what that box is. So if I put this on, my entire line now, when I cast this out, it's going to sink at a steady rate, okay? In other words, 3 inches per second, okay? That's what's nice to have. Where'd it go? Oh, I need my stripping basket. There it is. Math's a little difficult for me, so, but 3s and 6s, I can do pretty good. So if my line sinks at 3 inches per second, and I go 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,004 on a 3-inch sink rate, I'm 1 foot down. Well, keeping track of that can be a little tough too. So I put my finger on number 1 on my stripping basket, okay? And then I go 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,004. I move my finger now to the 2-inch or the 2. So now I'm 2 feet. And I just keep doing that, okay? Until I'm at the depth that I want to get, 6 feet. Then I'll start my retrieve. Now, there's probably as many different retrieves as there are people in this room, okay? Keep it simple, have fun. You know, a retrieve is you bring the line back, okay?
Inside.
Yeah, in little strips, okay? Now, those strips can be little tiny ones. It could be a tiny one, pull, you know, a pull, a couple little tiny ones. Change it up, yeah, because if you don't, you're gonna have a nice sunny day, you're gonna fall asleep. So your retrieves, just do different things with those, okay? So now, as we retrieve this line back to our float tube, notice how long it stays in the zone of our possible fish, okay? If I haven't caught anything, and I do the circle, do the cast over that way, count, do one this way, count, do one this way, count. Just kind of go in circles, okay? And if nothing happens, go deeper or count longer. The other way, if you already have research and you know that that reservoir is really deep, that's where I'd have a 6 inch per second full sink line. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,004. Instead of 3, just double it. Now I'm 2 feet down. Okay. Put your finger on the number 1 there and proceed. So look around. You know, I always spy on her. If she's catching fish, I'm gonna get over there and look and see what she's doing and stuff. So, or ask her what fly it is that she's using. It's usually $10. So that's the advantage of your full sink lines, okay? Now, I have seen people use sink tip lines, okay? A sink tip line is basically, it's a combination of a floating line, but the tip portion sinks at a given rate, okay? So that would be identified by these numbers right here. This is a 5-weight floating /S, so that makes it a sink tip. There's more information on here on the length and the sink rate. Okay, so there's just an example. Did everybody see that all right? So the problem with the sink tip line is it's more advantageous in moving water, like a river, where we're going to throw a streamer or something like that, where the back part of the fly line stays on the surface, but the tip sinks to get us down deeper. Well, I see people use those on lakes too. Here's the problem with that. It's not a problem, but it's just not very effective. I cast that out because the tip sinks. It's going to sink like this, okay? More of a straight line down. So now when I start my retrieve from my strip back, if our fish are right here, notice how short my fly stays in the zone, okay? Whereas with a full sink, which and then stays in the zone a lot longer, okay? So that's a basic line choice.
Clear difference between that and a level sink.
No, well, a level sink,
Because I have a level sink 5, it's supposed to go.
there's, and them all, not all, just the wet cells. Leave the top one on the left. Yeah, right, those, that one. Different manufacturers, whoop,
Different things.
different manufacturers call them different things.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a uniform sink. Scientific Angler wet cell. Okay. Cabela's old brand, that's a sink tip. Cortland. Yeah, 444 SL, so sinking line. They're all different. There are different sink rates too. Most commonly, you're going to find them as type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if it's type 3, it sinks at about 3 inches per second. If it's a type 1, it's going to sink 1 inch per second.
What's the wet cell?
It's just their brand of a full sink fly line. Yeah.
So Michael, starting out, what would you recommend, let's see,
A 3,
if we were just gonna get one, a 3?
a 3.
3
Yeah.
inches per,
Most of the fish outings that you have, a type 3 is going to be perfect.
So is that a medium sink line?
No, a medium sink would be a 1 to 2 inch. Yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you're gonna put a 4-foot leader on there?
Let's get back to the leaders. Yeah. Now, look. Oh, Rich. I'm like a hole in my bucket. So, when we are on our full sink fly line, okay, and we have, let's say we have a 9-foot leader on there, and we have one Patty's flies on. She's got a couple dozen of them in there, so.
What's your
Yeah.
crystals?
At the end, they're $10 each.
My fly won't work on a 9-foot leader.
So we don't even use leaders anymore. Because I haven't found one short enough. So what we do is we carry multiple spools of tippet. If everybody familiar with tippet? We use strong ones too. This is a 2X, so it breaks at 8.5 pounds, actually 10 pounds. 3X breaks at 8.5 pounds. Okay. So that's what we use. Take off about 3 feet, tie a perfection loop. You'll probably learn that at the Saturday's class with Carol Lee. She's awesome on knots. But tie a perfection loop, put that onto your sinking fly line.
So what are you starting with, 3X to start, or 0X?
Yeah,
or-
0X, 1X, 2X, depends on the size of your fish.
I've always done 3.
So at the start, at the
Yes.
beginning, with the
Yeah.
perfection.
We were catching some 30, 40-inch fish at places I can't tell you.
I can
Yeah, but, so we're using 0X there, so we just carry a couple of those. But my point being is that keep that short, and here's the reason why. The fly probably is not going to sink the same rate as your full sink line, okay? So if we cast out here our full sink line, we're letting it sink down, and we have a long leader on it, so we have a 9-foot leader, and our fly doesn't float. Now it's gonna float up. So now when I start my retrieve, I have a 9-foot leader. By the time I get here, I haven't started fishing until I'm there. Okay. If you keep that short, the fly line is actually gonna pull your fly down about the same level. So does that make sense?
So maybe that's why I caught fish. It's because that's really the only thing that I do different
Yes,
than you guys do.
I know.
Is I only have this much leader on the end of my line.
Real
The
short.
other is too, that you have a
You don't
longer
have
leader,
any.
fly doesn't.
No, I'm not leader, I use tippet.
Oh, you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
just 3 feet of tippet on your fly line.
I say no more than 4. Yeah.
So are you doing like,
Yeah, you just gotta tip it on.
most of the places that we, like the last
It's-
Bruno, would you tie like a 3X sticker on and then tie your fly on the 3X and now you're going down to 4X?
It's
Okay,
just a straight section of tip.
me personally, I tie the tippet on like he has taught me, and it obviously, that could be why sometimes I catch my fish. Ron is still tied in there. But I actually tie another little bit on so that I'm changing my fly just like you would on a regular leader. I tie
size down.
I don't, I just tie 3X back on.
What do you
So
mean,
it's all
what do you
even.
mean you tie 3 a little bit?
But
more?
you know, on a regular leader, you
Stop.
tie a little bit of tippet on there, so you're not cutting into your leader.
Yes,
So you can change your fly periodically. I tie a little bit additional on that 3 feet, just as if I treat that 3 feet as if it's a leader.
okay.
So what she's talking about is her fly line is here. She's got a loop on it. If you don't have the loop, you can learn from Carol Lee again, the nail knot tied with the perfection loop. So I'm gonna pass this around and let you see what that is. But what she's talking about is she'll tie on a piece of 0X or something like that about this long. Okay. Then on this, using a double surgeon's knot, she'll tie on some 2 or 3X. Does that make sense? So now when this is used up, she'll just cut that portion off, tie another piece on. So until she gets back to her fly line. I like a leader loop connector. There we go. So with the nail knot and the perfection loop. Okay. So this is an example of a full sink fly line. Pass that around.
Connie?
Yeah, okay, clarify, because if you're doing a 3X, and you're gonna put on a little teeny fly, you can't get the line through that. So you gotta build it down.
I don't use little itty bitty flies on my sinking one.
With the, like a 12, size 12.
Oh, yeah, easy.
I don't
Well,
use little flies when I'm using a sinking line on a lake.
so
What size flies do you
go to
use?
a 4X.
Kate,
Oh,
Go to a 4X.
okay.
Yeah, if you're fishing big flies,
Right,
you know, the 0 at 1, 2, 3. If you're fishing smaller flies, just drop down to
I don't think I've ever.
3 or a
used
4X. Okay.
Common is
Like-
maybe.
My main point is keep on a full sink line.
I don't fish with a dropper on my sinking line,
I'm getting to that here pretty soon. So
but I know.
with a full sink line, keep it short. That's all I'm saying. Keep it short. So, because that's why. So your fly will try. Okay. A lot of times, and we don't do it here much, but Montana and Wyoming and stuff, you'll have some reservoirs where there's hominids, and that's a type of insect that lives on the bottom in the mud and stuff, and it's usually around July, August, and September, but they'll start swimming up to the surface. That's where your floating fly line will come in. Did it bring the biosphere? So. Where's your other bottoms? Yeah. Do you want to show that one?
I don't care. It's
So,
been shot.
I think she's counted how many flies are in here. So, these are typical, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of flies to fish the lakes. But, you know, your club here, they all share. Connie, she's a little bit, yeah.
That's a good idea.
But those are basically streamer flies. Fish, big fish eat little fish. They mimic damsels and dragonflies and all kinds of stuff. This bottom row right here are some
Sharon, those are copyrighted.
of examples of, sorry, these are some examples of chrominids, okay? So you can pass those around too.
We're gonna
Oh,
be
those are
having
copyrighted?
By that flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she tells me.
So your chrominids, that's a different, totally different setup, and it can be a lot of fun. But chrominids, they swim up to the surface. Now, that's where I use my floating fly line on the surface.
I know.
And this is where I use a long leader. Sometimes it's been 18 feet long, okay,
Wow.
on an indicator. So we don't call them bobbers because we're fly fishermen. Fly fishing anglers, we call it strike indicators, okay? So I'm gonna have you slide that over real quick. So to fish chrominid, floating fly line, really long leaders. I'd start out with a 9 foot, okay? And then maybe add 2 or 3 feet of whatever leader X number you're using. 5X, for example. So I have a 5X 9 foot leader on. Right here's my strike indicator, okay? My first little chrominid is tied on right there. To do that, I would take your fly, your chrominid, and tie a clinch knot or improved clinch. I'm just going to do a clinch knot for time's sake. So there's our first chrominid on the end of our leader. Now, this is how I like to do it, which doesn't mean that it has to be that way. Some people will tie off the bend of the hook, okay? I don't really like that because a possible fish could come up and his nose may hit the leader before he gets hooked. If possible, if your flies will allow and your leader and tippet will, tie another clinch knot through the eye of the fly. Now you can see how that fly is offset, okay? I think the hookup chances are a little bit better on that.
Oh,
That's how I do it.
Now, when I chrominid fish, I like to fish 2 flies, okay? My second fly is gonna be down here, okay? So this knot is what I like to use, the non-slip mono loop, okay? And basically that is tie an overhand knot first. Take your fly, come up through, keep that open right there. Do a 3 wrap clinch. Come back through both of those. Hang on to your tag, pull. Now you've got an open loop right there.
I can figure it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's really easy. You can do a clinch knot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just tie an overhand in it first. Now I've got 2 flies, okay? So that's how I chrominid fish. Now, the question is though, I only have a 9 foot rod, but I've got 18 feet of this is 18 feet down. We're fishing on a strike indicator. There's only one strike indicator that I found that really works well for this. So if we're 18 feet down and I catch a fish, okay, then I need to strip that in. Well, once I get to my indicator at the rod tip, I can't go anymore. But that fish is way out here. So I like to use a strike indicator that breaks away. So it slides down to where I can net my fish now. I don't endorse products very much, but this BioStrike is unbelievable. Basically what it is, I'll pass it around, but it's a moldable putty, okay? So I can mold that around the end of my fly line. Once it gets cool, it hardens up. But if I get a fish 18 foot, I'm stripping in, fighting, and once it reaches the rod tip, I just keep pulling. This will break loose and it'll slide down. Okay?
It doesn't break, it kind of like putty,
just
so
slides.
it just ends up making a tube right down the middle of it.
There are slip bobbers that you can use, or slip indicators. Whoa, excuse me. Yeah, slip indicators.
Okay, those flies are staying back there a little long, Michael.
I'm watching. Just make sure there's no way.
Well, now that I think about it, though, it still is my time.
So they They also make us the hard foam strike indicators with the little rubber band on it. Those work well too, so. Now on your promenade fishing, instead of stripping in, what you do is you just hold the rod real high and you just twitch it 1, 2, 3 times and stop. Let it set, twitch, 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 let it set. And I've had some horrendous takes on that. Pretty soon that old indicator's going that way and yeah, we got one. So I would like to go into more depth, but that's your basic promenade type fishing. Okay. So, did I miss anything there? Leader lane. What am I doing?
Does anybody have any questions, or is there something we can call, Jennifer has a question, Michael?
Yeah, where does split shot figure into the whole thing?
Oh, yeah, well, that's a good question. Yeah, guess where it goes. I hardly ever use split shot
You can't get it off.
unless I'm prominent fishing. Yeah, actually, there's an easy way to do that. The slit that's in there, when you crimp it together, take your hemostats, and if the slit's going this way, pinch it this way. and
I've tried it, I just make it worse.
it'll-
Yeah. Well,
The other way is cut it off, pull it off, tie another,
Exactly.
yeah.
the fly fishing, split shot, yeah. The
It's so
old fashioned gear fishing though, had the little
Yeah.
lip on the end that you could pinch
Fish,
to
but
get
these
it
are
off.
so tiny.
Yes.
I like this, you can get it at sportsman's, Cabela's, whatever, so they're just assorted sizes and stuff. When you're promenade fishing, because I want that to get down a lot faster than what those little promenades will do. Yeah, I'll put on a couple pieces of those. An excellent question is, if my bottom fly is right here, I put 1 or 2, sometimes 3 up above, not that far above my promenade, top promenade.
Did you have a specific question about it?
So that'll help it get down. Now, another thing that I see often too with Patty, and I'm not throwing her under the bus or anything, but she can fin so fast, she can just do circles around me, and I think it's a little short legs, but here's the thing, she's casts out and her line's out and she's finning. Well, that's okay, but now she starts her retreat. She's still finning. Well, now that fly is going so fast that, some reactionary takes will happen, but I'm trying to get her to stop finning. Once you've made your presentation, once you've waited your time to go down, stop your finning.
I don't agree, because I find out that they'll strike more when I'm moving.
Now-
Well, and I have to admit though, even Judy, when she fishes like Michael.
Really?
Stop, and I just
don't catch anything with it.
I just can't.
No,
Well, and you don't stop for long period.
yeah, Michael's rules don't even apply. These are just observations. There's
And
nothing.
yet on the other hand, she caught what, 50
Yeah.
some fish?
What was I doing Friday morning? I was trolling that one section and catching like crazy.
There are no rules, as far as I'm concerned. You want to tie your knots good, you want your gear to
Just
be
do what
good.
works for you.
Mine
Yeah,
works
just
when I'm
have
eating
fun.
my sandwich, when I stop to eat my sandwich, every single time, and then my last bite.
Well, and
Because
now
some-
that,
I'm not,
Sometimes Patty will cast back and I hear this just go, and then forward.
I saw it happen.
And she'll catch one on the back cast.
I was
So,
having a rough time at Bruno, my cast was like horrid. I was hitting the water on the front one, hitting it on the back. But one time I went pew, and I went, oh, I got bass.
So there are no rules, just have fun, keep it simple is what I like to say, just keep it simple. I'm just making some observations that I see a lot of that I think can help with the fishing. Now, when we're going with full sink lines again, back to that, and there's no way I would cast as much line as I would like to actually fish. So, and it's hard to demonstrate here because we're not on the water, but I'm sure you probably all experienced it. So if not, my
And
description
this
is not very good.
does work, is a good example at Sage End, to get, at least in
Well,
June.
anyway, yeah.
I know,
anyway.
but that's what.
So
it is.
what I do is where I'm fishing and I want to make a cast, I usually cast about 40 feet. So cast 40 feet, but I want to fish 55 or 60 feet, so I can't cast that. So what do I have to do to get the line out that far? I'll pull it off in my stripping basket, and I'll pull it out off the reel, set it in the stripping basket. Then the lines in the water that I cast, I just take the rod and just do this, really low on the water surface. What that's gonna do is pull this extra line out. Now, while I'm doing that, I'm finning, okay, but really slow. So now the line, as I'm finning, that extra line is gonna straighten out, but at the same time, it's sinking, okay? So,
Oh, I see.
yeah, I have to do two things at once. I gotta fin and count. So, yeah. But as you're finning, now I've got 60, 65 feet of line out and it's sinking. Once it all comes tight, I stop finning and I start my retrieve. Yeah. So try that sometime. Try different retrieves. I can go on for another 10 minutes on different retrieves.
You know, the way that Patti's fins are set up, you can only fin backwards then? Is that
Yes, it's like a backwards bicycle.
Yeah, because your fins, you could go, you know, they're like scuba fins where Patti's are just made for going back.
No, it does the same thing. Yeah. The only way
But those
is
scoops, you're still going that way.
Doesn't make any difference. You're
Really
still
go back.
choosing what we don't want.
You're scooping, but I don't know, it goes.
Your casting is falling while you're going back.
Okay.
yeah, it only works one way.
That's what casting is.
But I have to admit, I go so fast, and he asked me a long time ago, how do you do that? You know, and I said, I don't know. So then I went, well, wait a minute, it's like riding a bicycle. And then months later, in the middle of the night, I woke up and I went, oh crap, you pedal backwards.
Backwards.
I go like
You
this.
pedal backwards.
Well, Patty does this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to go
It
around.
leaves me in the way. Yeah. Connie, you had a question.
So you're saying 60 feet.
I just,
How much line is on the reel and you're gonna be out? So we can kind of judge where you can see the next color, you know what I mean?
that's an excellent point too, and I don't have it here. She doesn't know this. I'm gonna get in trouble right away.
Oh, he marked his line and didn't mark mine.
So
Yeah.
what Connie's question was, is how do I know how much line I have out? Well, you can learn how to tie this nail knot.
There's a lot of soldiers.
If you can learn how to tie this nail knot, get you a piece of monofilament or whatever. Measure this out, 10, 20, 30, 40, and then tie a little nail knot in. So now when you cast out and it goes through your finger, oh, I'm at 45 feet. Keep testing it out. Oh, there went the other one, it's not 55. Oh, there went the other one at 65. To be honest with you, I wouldn't worry about it. It doesn't really matter.
But how long is that line?
Oh, most fly lines are 90 feet.
9.
Yeah. So if you come to your backing, you're 90 feet long. Okay. Yeah. And there's been times up on Deadwood where we've cast out 90 feet and probably another 40 feet of backing. And yeah, but we're extremely deep too. So I haven't caught anything, but
Would I have a shorter line on mine?
no,
Because at Crane Falls, I could see my back.
unless you cut it.
Well, that's what but you would be the one that cut it.
Yeah, no.
So
No, most fly lines are 90 feet
so
long.
I was really deep in Crane Falls.
Now there's another retrieve, the rod.
Oh, I put it away because
Just
it's.
hang there. We figured this one out, just the tip. We figured this out last year. So fly fishing, you never stop learning, which is why I love it so much. Because for decades, I'd always strip and do the different strips and stuff like that. Well, one day we were at this little pond or lake and I cast out and I had the rod up real high and I just pulled it like that. Well, it's difficult to tell. The line out here in the water, it caused the rod to bend. And when I stopped, the rod straightened it back out and I got this little bump in the fly line. It's like, that's cool. So I pulled it again and the rod bent, straightened out, little bump in the fly line, bam, had one. Got what, 75?
And
I
he
quit.
told me that when I switched.
I kept telling her,
It's the first fishing trip that we were gonna stay over and fish in the morning before we went home. And we got off the water and I said, we had so much fun, got so many fish. Why don't we just get up and go home?
So, but then I went back to stripping and nothing, tried all kinds of things. So I pulled it up like this and just real quick pull, bent the rod straight out, line bounce, bam. So that's a new one for us. So we're gonna try that quite a bit too, so.
And Judy Talladay, maybe I'm not supposed to give it away, but she trolls.
Hold it.
Michael wants to say
I wanted to.
he can interrupt me, but I can't.
There's one more strip, and I don't quite know it all. I've been trying to investigate it for like 10 years, and I call it the Talladay strip. Judy Talladay, she's, yeah, most members will know her. She fins all the time. She doesn't stop, and she catches fish, and I don't know how. Well, I think there's one little thing, while she's finning, I think she's doing this. But I don't know for sure, so I don't want to give it away, but she'll tell you.
Doesn't Judy keep a rod fish in the
Judy puts her
water?
whole rock in the water.
Well, they'll fin and strip at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh.
She puts her whole rock all the way down in the water.
And there's a question, at Cream Falls, I only caught landed 2 fish, but I had a bunch of nibbles, takes. I tend to lift it when I get that. Do I lift it or I just bring it back straight towards me?
That's a good question too. Don't know.
Just
But-
try, maybe just try something different because I was lifting it.
Are you dozing off? Okay, so we can put that out. There's 2 kinds of hook sets. So the one is what everybody does is lifts the rod. The other one's like a line set. You hang it onto your line, pull it. Try that sometimes. So
And I don't pull my line, but as soon as I feel it, I'm lightly, I guess, while it's playing with it. But when I think I have it, I don't think I pull it, but I lock it in place. And
But
then
you
when
don't necessarily immediately.
I lock the line in place first, and then when the fish takes it, then I lift it. I mean, for some reason, I'm just conscious of that. They nibble, and so while they're nibbling, I'm kind of getting ready, and then I just secure the line, and then I lift it.
And then the tipping, what tip do you use? A certain times you want to use that are underwater that they're not going to want to see.
glad you brought that up. Somebody's awake. There's another tippet material out there called fluorocarbon, okay? So it's expensive. I'll use the monofilament or the red ones that I was showing there. Or
I
green
got
ones.
some.
Yeah, these guys do. Plus, the water's really, really clear and you're fishing right in the middle of the day on a bluebird day, no clouds, bright hot sun shining down in clear water. So the monofilament leaders for tippets, they can reflect light, okay? So that can be an issue or not, I think it could be. So, but they've come out with fluorocarbon tippets. Fluorocarbon sinks and it also absorbs light or it won't reflect light. So it's pretty much invisible in water. So,
Is that what
Is that why?
okay, 2 questions.
Is that you like?
You know what,
I would-
even on the river, I'm pretty bad
I like
about
using
using that because for some reason, I get a lot of wind knots. I use a lot of tippet.
You don't use that on the lake?
Yeah, what?
I don't use the
The fluorocarbon,
the fluorocarbon. I use the cheap stuff because I love to.
3X.
I don't think you need it in the Milky Lake.
You don't need it in milky cloudy water or milky cloudy water. You don't need it on overcast days. You don't need it in shadow or anything like that. The only time I ever use it is when the sun's like right up here and it's beating down and it's just penetrating the water.
I
It's the only time I
personally
use it.
don't have it in my lake stuff. I have it in my river stuff.
That's because it's like 16 bucks a spool, so I don't let her have it. It is expensive. So you don't practice your knots with it. But, I would always carry at least 1 spool of that. So just in case. Have what? Those are empty, yeah.
Just go buy your own. Patty. You don't need your-
Not the charge. That's about it. So that's actually not about it. But the rest is up to you guys and explore, have fun, go on these trips, share information, share fishes, maybe I can get her to share some flies.
I want to ask if anybody at home has any.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see anybody on there. I see a lamp.
Looks like there's 4 people.
Oh, there's 18.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I told them to unmute themselves if they have a question, so.
Oh, yeah, let's go over and we'll address any questions, so.
Okay, folks remotely, please unmute yourself and ask a question if you have.
Is it kind of like some of those radio shows where we're waiting on callers,
I have a question.
Christine has a question.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, can you tell us about your business?
So, was it 95, I think, I started Dreamcast Idaho. And so what we do is I have 3 programs, basically beginning fly fishing. They're held on Saturdays. They're 6-hour classes. We go over rod, reel, line, leader, tippet, flies, basic entomology. We have 2.5, 3 hours of classroom. We break for lunch, and then we have about 2.5 hours of casting to teach you how to actually operate the fly rod.
It's out of your home.
Oh, it's out of our home. Yeah. We have half-acre casting field out back, and we have a big conference room for the classroom. We also have an intermediate class, which teaches you different casts, reach cast, roll cast, all kinds of cool stuff. How to fish upstream, downstream, cross current, dry flies, nymphing, and streamer techniques. And then if anybody's interested in the 2-hand or the spay stuff, we do a spay class also. A lot of fun. Carol Lee can help you on that.
So visit our website.
Oh yeah, visit our website, dreamcastidaho.com.
Great.
I can't hear her. She's supposed to ask the questions. What was that?
Oh, I just said great, thank you. I'm interested in actually dry fly. And because I've found that nymphing is not that exciting for me. So I would like to learn basically presentation.
Yeah, we do private workshops too, so you can just give us a call.
Great.
Yeah, they can get you the information there.
Great. Thank you so much. It's
You
a
bet.
great presentation.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
thank you, Patty and Michael. It was a great presentation.
Well,
Thanks.
we like to hear that because
Yeah.
It was my first time in front of the camera and I kind of stuttered a little, so I apologize.
Great job, Patty. Wonderful.
she is an awesome fisherman. She's a spectacular wife. We just have so much fun together. Yeah, just can't say enough. So if I say any more, I'm going to get in trouble probably. Go have fun. That's what fly fishing is all about. This time of year, we can't fit in Idaho anyway. Most rivers are closed. So everybody's going off float tubing that. But like I say, this group here, yeah, get involved because they're fun.
Others are adding, thank you.
Yeah.
Great presentation.
A couple of them drink too much, but that's okay. But yeah, check us out, dreamcastidaho.com. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike.